Hello again, friends. Before we start today, I thought I'd just zoom out a little here and show you sort of a pantry spices corner overall. So the whole thing looks like this. There's the spices. There's the whole spice rack. But one thing I think is important for kidney warriors is, I don't know about you, but my health, even after transplant, is very up and down. I can be feeling great for a couple of months, and then suddenly something happens and my blood pressure spikes, and I'm just very weak while we sort of try to figure that out. Recently I ended up having to have surgery for basically an implant unrelated to kidneys that had moved around in my body where it shouldn't have been, and I'm going back to work tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. But things happen, and so what I find difficult is, turn this for a second, is keeping up the cooking while I'm not doing well. And so I've learned some things about it's like if you have to order out, try to keep it in line with what your diet is in the first place. So for me, since I'm plant-based, whole foods, I try to order a salad, or even I'll go for a stir fry at a Thai or Chinese restaurant, veggie fajita at a Mexican restaurant sort of thing, but I don't, as I once did, be like, okay, well, if I'm not eating plant-based at home, then I'll just get a bunch of beef tacos. Like, you don't need to let it all go. But to that end, what I was trying to show you here is I tried to make a homey little area in between here, set off by this cute rainbow rug. That stool, which used to go with a vanity I had, has become sort of a kitchen resting stool. And that, when we don't have tools on it to hang up those spoons, becomes a nice little foot ottoman. And so what's great about that is I can chop something, and then if I'm starting to feel tired, I go and just sit down on the stool for a little bit. I often keep a book over there to read. Also, while something's simmering, I can sit down and kind of watch it, but also veg out on my stool and ottoman a little bit. And certainly if something's baking but I want to stay nearby, or roasting, then I've got my sort of little relaxation corner here. Our plan is to, once things get a bit more settled and we get those spoons up, is to put a nice little desk here that could hold a laptop or something, so you could work on the computer, or even, if you weren't feeling well, use the desk, take the cutting board over, and chop some vegetables. So that's in process. We just moved in about a month ago, and I had the surgery and recovery during that time, so work in progress as always. All right, now I'm going to go back over to the pantry and get this steady so I can stop making you dizzy here. Please. Looks pretty good. All right, so today we're going to talk about beans. And, as usual, some associated ingredients. So for beans, so I'll confess, before I became plant-based, I was not a bean eater. Like, there are 3 things on my dislike list, okay? Celery, water chestnuts, and beans. Now, to this day, I will not touch anything with celery. I will not make anything with celery. People talk about ants on a log. Great kidney-friendly snack. Celery, some peanut butter, some raisins on it. If you like that, great. That's totally out for me. Can't handle celery. Not raw, not cooked, not anything. Same with water chestnuts. These prepackaged stir-fry mixes I used to get have water chestnuts in them. Can't handle it. However, as far as beans, I came to a recognition that if I was going to do plant-based, I love vegetables, love fruits. I even like tofu and tempeh, and eventually we'll talk about some of that too. These soy-based alternatives, which I know there can be some controversy about, but I've found them helpful and not harmful for me. But I realized a woman cannot live on tofu and tempeh alone, and some edamame. I had to get on board with the beans. And there's so many kinds of beans, I have to like some of them, right? And so over the past couple of months, I started with some, but I've now expanded to pretty much being willing to eat any type of bean. And the trick is to not just drain a can of beans and then try to eat it. That's what spices and seasonings are for. And it's not about salting them either. But so I'm going to walk through these beans and talk about the types of things I think they're good for. I do canned beans. Again, you have to be careful because canned things have a lot of sodium in them, so it's very important to drain and rinse them. And actually, if you hold on a second, I want to show you something related to beans. One of my best kitchen investments ever is this thing. What is it? So it's a bean colander, colander being a type of drainer. And I'm not a big fan of like these unitasker things that just do one function in the kitchen, but I make an exception for this because it's so easy. Let's say I've got my pinto beans and it even opens with a tab with a fork or a knife under it, or fingernails if you have them. I don't. And then you just pop this over the top, upside down, shake, 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 water comes out, and then fill it up with water to rinse it, turn it upside down, shake, 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 and you've got some drained and rinsed beans. So if you're gonna get into plant-based in beans, this was $3. You can find them on Amazon. That's where I found them, I think. $2.99. Best $2.99 I've ever spent. And you can see it still needs to be washed from when I used it this morning preparing some food. Okay, back to pinto beans. Very common in Mexican food, but frankly, I use this as a sub for white beans if I'm running out, if they come up. Goya is a great brand. I really enjoy them, but I mean, I get basic brands too. Like, I've got some navy beans from Food Lion, which is a local grocery store chain, at least here in Virginia. Anyway, pinto, I feel like has good firmness to it, which one of my problems with beans is they were just too mushy. So pinto was actually one of the first ones I got on board with. If you're not a bean lover, I recommend starting with pinto beans. I found them the most approachable. The second most approachable, I'll come back to this, are garbanzo beans, otherwise known as chickpeas. You see I have another store brand here, Harris Teeter. And again, to bring home the sodium thing, about a quarter of this can, a quarter, has 320 milligrams of sodium, 14% daily value. So let's multiply that out. Half a can is 28%. Now, the whole can is upward of half your daily sodium value. That's if you were to drink the liquid and everything, but still, really important to drain and rinse. Now, why not just do dried, you might ask? It's something I haven't gotten to yet. To me, it's time. I work as a journalist, and I do a lot with cooking, I exercise, I have a relationship, you know, we work to maintain a house, I have, you know, parents and friends and just everything that a normal life has. So I am all about the shortcuts. So I'm just not going to do dried beans because there's a lot of other ways I can be using that time. I've had a really hard time realizing how much time I had to devote to cooking. I enjoy the process, but all I could think is I'd just rather be reading a book. I'd rather be, you know, going out pre-COVID, like to a festival or something. But this is important. Anyway, garbanzo beans, chickpeas. I find them also to stay firm a bit more than others. And while they're a bean, they don't just have exactly the same beany taste to me. So that was actually the second one I tried after pinto, and this is years ago just when I was attempting plant-based for other reasons. And when I restarted plant-based about 6 months ago, really pinto and garbanzo was about what I was willing to do. And you know, that's okay. Maybe you can live on tofu, tempeh, pinto, and garbanzo beans as your sort of higher protein needs. But yeah, these are great for making hummus, of course. I love putting them in a salad. I really miss croutons. Nothing wrong with croutons, but a lot of the pre-made ones I find have a lot of sodium. And so if you roast up some of these and then put them in a salad, you get the crunch like the crouton. I like to do that and then add some spices to them, most notably cumin. And sometimes I'll do cumin and cinnamon, actually, to give it a little sweet spiciness. I've also used a mixture of like vinegars and soaked them in that and then roasted, so I have like a balsamic vinegar flavor. I'll also make those and put them in trail mix, or I'll just snack on the crunchy chickpeas. Garbanzos, or chickpeas, very versatile, easy for non-bean lovers to love, I think, and a real cornerstone of my kidney-friendly diet. Navy beans, I don't usually have, but I actually have a recipe I'm interested in making this week that called for them. So we went to 2 different stores before we went back to Food Lion to find them. They are smaller, a little mushier. I wouldn't have tried this when I was first getting into beans. I remember trying them and I did not like them, but I'm really curious to see how it goes this week, and I'll keep you posted. What I'm doing is a mixture of them and a farmer white bean, so I'm hoping it'll come out good. But I find it kind of fun just to explore all these different bean types so you don't get too bored with any of them. Black beans, of course, another good one. And I don't have any more white beans like I was talking about to show you, but those are things like cannellini and Great Northern. Great Northern are a little bigger, firmer. I like them better. But they have a very smooth taste, really take on, I find, whatever seasoning you put them with. I made some great sort of baked beans, sort of with a Bush's bean flavor, but none of the crap, the other week. And I used cannellini beans for those, and it came out really nice. Oh, and I do plan to do some cooking demos on this channel. I just wanted to get sort of the foundations down here by talking about the different ingredients and doing in-depth pantry tour before I got to that. Black beans, especially good. I love them in like burritos, make breakfast burritos, like sort of baked tortilla wraps. So tortilla, black bean, butternut squash, bell pepper, whatever. Some my cheese sauce that I make, add it in, and then roll it up in a whole wheat tortilla, and then broil that in the oven to get sort of a crunch factor to it. Really nice. Again, these are smaller, so I feel like they're easier to mix in. Not as good for me, though, as a salad, because I feel like they have a little bit of a more obvious taste. So I like them more when there's stronger flavors that compete with them, so I'm not tasting as much as the black bean. If you're a bean lover, maybe you don't need to hide it as much. Black-eyed peas, we mostly hear about around New Year's, but Bush's does have them at all times. This, again, got for a special recipe, but then forgot to use it. I'm gonna have to drain these really well because a fourth of this is 21% sodium, so that'd be 80% my daily value if I make the whole thing. But I do like black-eyed peas just because the taste is a little different than anything else. And I do have them, but and I can mostly find it in Bush's, but I like the taste a lot, but you've gotta rinse them thoroughly. And then just a little aside is, so I've mentioned my boyfriend. His name is Paul, and he does not have kidney disease. In fact, he has very few, if not no, medical problems. I think as kidney warriors, we encounter folks like that. For a long time, I wasn't comfortable dating because I just didn't want to burden someone else with all of this. But, I mean, he's really been great. Like, we attack the issues together, and there's a lot of times when I can have a super normal life, and everything works great. But while he will eat what I make that's plant-based, sometimes a guy just wants normal stuff, so we do keep Manwich around. I will just say, for contrast, actually, this has 13% sodium, which is actually less than those Bush's black-eyed peas, but, you know, and then you do it with ground beef, etc. So we keep that in the same spot. And I thought that I'd have a lot of trouble, you know, like watching him eat it or not grabbing it for myself, but the more I've eaten plant-based, the more I've come to think of it as enjoying the new foods and not being sad about what I'm not having. Last part of a bean section here is lentils. Lentils, similar to a bean, you know, slightly different in what you can use them for. I'm actually making a bunch of Indian food this week, and so I made some brown lentils for that. So what I've got, and I used those up. So what I've got here is green lentils, which are often called French, and red lentils. The main colors are green, red, brown, and black. The red are sort of the ones that are not like the other. The green, brown, and black I feel like can all be substituted for each other with very little issue. The red cook a lot faster, but come out a bit mushier. So if you're looking at a recipe and if it calls for red lentils, you really need the red. Like, I would not recommend substituting the others for it. However, if it calls for French lentils, or green lentils, which are the same, or brown or black, you can substitute any of those for each other, but do not substitute for red lentils into that recipe, or you will be very disappointed. So for example, my recipe called for black lentils, but I had a can of brown. So sometimes I have cans. These you see are dried. That's more economical. Now, why am I willing to do dried lentils and not beans? Because these lentils take 40 minutes to cook versus 60 plus. Don't ask me why I make the cutoff there. That's just sort of how I've worked out working with this. Now, you can argue if it's plant-based or not, but I do keep honey around as a sweetener. I try to avoid like actual sugar, although I do keep it in my pantry here. But for my oatmeal, if I want it a little sweeter, I'll put the honey in. Sometimes if I want a nice dessert and have some fruit, I'll drizzle a little honey over it to give it some added sweetness. Feels a little like an indulgence, but isn't really. I use it in sometimes plant-based muffins I bake. I even bake cupcakes, and we'll use that as a sweetener. I really enjoy honey. It's pretty important. As you can see, I've made my way most of this halfway-ish for the honey bear, and this is local Maryland honey, actually, close to the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, which I just got from someone as part of a gift basket for the Jewish New Year, which we celebrate with apples and honey, which will be coming up next week in mid-September here in 2020 when I'm filming this. Keep almond butter. You may laugh at some point. We keep sunflower butter. We have natural peanut butter. And then for Paul, we have Jif. Jif has 5 grams of added sugar, so I try to stay away from that. Sunflower butter, great alternative if you're allergic to nuts but want the taste of peanut butter. I am, as you can tell, not allergic to nuts, but I enjoy the taste. It just tastes lighter to me. So sometimes if I make a sandwich like on whole grain bread, which I feel like has a stronger flavor, then I'll use the sunflower butter so it sort of balances out a little bit and isn't too many strong flavors. I actually prefer almond butter to peanut butter these days. This jar's pretty light right now. But I discovered a good recipe recently of you toast some bread, you put some almond butter on it, and then some of the popular summer fruits right now, like a stone fruit on it, and it's just a very refreshing, either breakfast or even I did it as a dinner side actually, and it was pretty nice. We enjoyed it. For making quick curries, type of southeastern food, I love Thai kitchen. It's not too bad, only 4% sodium for a teaspoon, which is about how much I use, but in a portion for me and Paul, so that's not very bad. And then if you mix that with some coconut milk and put some vegetables in it, it makes a very nice sort of soothing dish. Put it over rice, something like that. That's an idea. For baking, I have baking soda, and this is actually balancing on the baking powder, so I'm not going to pick that up. Those I find to be, for me, on sort of a normal post-transplant diet, plant-based diet, to be okay. Like I said, I use them for muffins and cupcakes, but not too many. Sorry, I'm going to try that again. All right, cornstarch. This is used as a thickener. I do also use arrowroot powder, which is sort of a paleo version of a thickener, and that can be useful in recipes too. They're pretty interchangeable, I've just had this container for so long. They're both gluten-free, in case that's a concern for you. And this is great for Asian sauces. So if you mix together some soy sauce and some other things, but you want a thicker one that sticks to your stir fry better, if you add about a teaspoon of cornstarch, that would be for a serving for 2 people, then you sort of stir it around and give it a couple minutes to thicken, you're going to get more of a sauce consistency you might be used to at an Asian restaurant. I mentioned I try to avoid sugar, but I do stock raw turbinado sugar. I might not be pronouncing that wrong. That's what I use instead of regular sugar because it's its most unprocessed form. For plant-based, if you really want to get picky about it, I get the coconut sugar, which is still sugary, but I just find agrees with my stomach a bit more. When I go off plan, I do get a lot of stomach aches. Sometimes really debilitating. Also, frankly, diarrhea or constipation can go either way, but it's just not pleasant. So I try to use coconut sugar over the other sugars, but I do also stock brown sugar just in case. For baking and also for oatmeal reasons, I stock vanilla extract. There's also such things as peppermint and almond extract, which I have around sometimes. They add a really nice flavor, especially to desserts. Also, if I mix some of that and honey together as a sauce to go over strawberries or stone fruit, like peaches and nectarines, melons, like cantaloupe. Sounds weird, but I enjoy the taste of vanilla on it. You might like it. I keep tomato paste. I feel like tomato, which I'm obsessed with, is a very good flavor, but if you're watching your potassium, you want less of it, and concentrated tomato paste, a little goes a long way, and then you're having less potassium in your diet, but still getting some of a tomatoey flavor in it. That would go really well in a curry, for example, so you could give it a tomato flavor in the coconut milk, but you wouldn't be using like a ton of tomatoes in it. But of course, if you can eat tomatoes, which I do use canned tomatoes, I do make tomato sauces, etc., and this is useful for that as well, to sort of double up the tomato flavor. So you have a can of tomatoes, which you use to make a sauce, and then you add some paste to impart more tomato flavor to the rest of a sauce outside of the pieces of tomato. And you will note I say I'm whole foods plant-based. I did not say no oil. I try to limit it, but I do use oil in my cooking. And so to that end, over here I keep my special oils. These were a gift from my mom. So I've got basil oil, and I won't take them out, but there's a pesto and an herbe de Provence oil. That last one being French. You can tell my 10 years of French. Use these not so much to cook with, but to add flavor, like to a salad. So creamy salad dressings can be really problematic nutritionally, I find. So I do like to make my own, but if I'm too lazy to mix up my own, a little bit of, let's say, basil oil and balsamic vinegar, just pick one of these oils and one of these vinegars, drizzle it over my veggies, gives it some flavor, but isn't nutritionally destroying my plan. And there you have it. So it's a little bit of miscellaneousness, not sure. But that is part 2 of my pantry that I'm going to go over. And now that I'm approaching 25 minutes, I see why it was smart to split it into 4 parts. So probably more detail than you ever wanted about these items, but hopefully that gives you a better understanding of some options related to beans, baking, oils, etc. So hope that was interesting for you. Please let me know if you got any questions or comments. If you like this content, please subscribe, and you'll get new videos as I continue to make more. I'm on a roll on this Sunday as I'm getting started, and this is my 3rd video in a row, and I'll probably get through the pantry today, but I have a tendency to drop off of things, but I'm really trying to keep this up, so keep me accountable. All right, talk to you later. Bye.